The story of Quentin Beck in the film Spider-Man: Far From Home reminded me of an obscure historical figure, the Reverend Lucius Cartwright. In 1931, as the country was suffering from the Great Depression, the Reverend sailed a modest steamship into New York Harbor. After docking, he announced that he discovered an island off the coast of South America that was rich with gold and fertile farmland. He appealed to the most destitute of people, saying, "I am a man of God, and I cannot keep these riches for myself." He vowed to take as many men and families as the ship could carry to begin a new paradise, a world away. He only asked that the attendees be God-fearing Christians and bring nothing but clothing and their Bibles. At the time, the Dust Bowl had driven refugees from the Midwest into the cities, so the Reverend had no trouble filling his ship with the faithful. So many volunteered, in fact, that a lottery was held to determine who could sail to this new paradise. On August 19th, the ship departed and was never heard from again. No one knows if the ship wrecked, reached the island, or if there was ever an island at all. To this day, we don't know if Reverend Cartwright was a murderer, a hoaxer, or a hero who lifted hundreds out of poverty. We do know that hundreds of people followed this stranger into the Atlantic Ocean because they wanted to believe.
Hey everybody, welcome to Screen Crush. I'm Ryan Airy. Belief is front and center of the hero myth. From Beowulf to Batman, we crave exceptional people to believe in.
I am Beowulf! I am Batman!
I'm Batman. I'm Batman. I'm Batman.
And superhero stories often center on belief. Iron Man and Captain America become superheroes because wise mentors believe in their internal goodness.
This is why you were chosen.
Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy is about the hero's belief in the city of Gotham.
This city just showed you that it's full of people ready to believe in good.
And Superman stories are traditionally about his belief in humanity.
For this reason above all, their capacity for good, I have sent them you, my only son.
But Spider-Man is the rare hero who struggles to believe in himself. This is the internal conflict at the core of both Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man: Far From Home. In each movie, Peter walks away from being Spider-Man so he can live a more normal life. Far From Home takes this a step further, since it's part of a larger cinematic universe. For Peter to come around, he doesn't just need to believe that he can be a superhero, he has to become the superhero, a replacement for Iron Man, both in the MCU and at the box office. That's a lot of pressure for a 16-year-old kid. In each movie, an older mentor figure talks to Peter about belief.
I believe there's a hero in all of us.
I don't think Tony would have done what he did if he didn't know that you were going to be here after he was gone.
Afterwards, he has the self-confidence to rally and defeat the villain. But Far From Home presents a new kind of story where belief is the enemy. To believe in something requires hope, and hope requires optimism. Quentin Beck twists this optimism into something dark. In Far From Home, the world is vulnerable to a charlatan like Mysterio. When he praises his writer for coming up with the multiverse story, he says,
"The story you created of a soldier from another Earth named Quentin fighting space monsters in Europe is totally ridiculous and apparently exactly the kind of thing people will believe right now."
And as he's dying, he says,
"People need to believe. And nowadays, they'll believe anything."
You see deception all through the film. There's big reveals like the Skrulls, and even little moments like Flash scamming drinks on the plane.
He blipped, so technically he's 16, not 21. I'll take that.
She's lit. Go to the Eiffel Tower. Should be great.
Yeah, I read it was secretly built as a mind control antenna to create an army of the insane.
Think back to 2008, when flying armor was the weirdest thing in the MCU. The soldiers in this Jeep would have had a hard time believing in a multiverse. Heck, they barely believe in Tony Stark's storied sex life.
Is it true you went 12 for 12 with last year's Maximum cover model?
But after the snap, every person on Earth has a personal stake in superhero battles. So people are willing to believe just about anything.
We'll tell you any you want to hear.
Quentin Beck represents the dark side of belief. He has no superpowers, no army, no cosmic MacGuffin. But he has you. His powers are given to him by the people. And that way, he's very much like a politician. Beck says,
"They'll see what I want them to see!"
Just as Hitler once famously said, the bigger the lie, the more likely people are to believe it.
What allows Beck to take power is confirmation bias.
Basically, this means that people are more likely to believe facts that already support their existing biases. So, if people want the heroes to return and suddenly a hero shows up who looks like Iron Man, Thor, and Doctor Strange rolled into one, they will assume that this person is a good guy.
Who is that guy?
He's like Iron Man and Thor rolled into one.
He's alright.
In Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, the Ministry of Magic, led by Cornelius Fudge, refuses to believe that Voldemort is alive.
The story's main conflict isn't against the Dark Lord, it's against the confirmation bias of the wizarding world.
Fudge isn't in his right mind. It's been twisted and warped.
People turn on Spider-Man in the end credits scene in part because of video evidence, but also because it's a way to cope with the loss of yet another hero, Mysterio. So if Mysterio only died, then people would feel sad and kind of helpless. But if someone, like Spider-Man, were responsible for his death, that gives people someone to blame. And blame makes us feel powerful and in control. The ending is very similar to The Dark Knight. Both Harvey Dent and Quentin Beck are villains who die as heroes, and the real hero is scapegoated into becoming a villain. But in The Dark Knight, this is to give the people of Gotham hope. In Far From Home, it's to foment fear and hatred. And when people are afraid, liars like Beck are able to rewrite the facts however they want. History is often written by public enthusiasm. In the movie The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, Jimmy Stewart plays a renowned politician who was made famous by shooting a ruffian named Liberty Valance. But he confesses it was actually John Wayne who killed the outlaw. The reporters present refused to run the story, saying,
"When the legend becomes fact, print the legend."
Print the legend. Truth is subjective. In Far From Home, Peter misinterprets Tony's note that says Edith is for the next Tony Stark because he doesn't believe in himself. His biggest mistake is not following the advice of Ronald Reagan.
Trust but verify.
Peter never stopped to ask, is this true? Could Beck be lying? How can I verify this? So he chooses Quentin Beck to be the heir of Iron Man's legacy and gives him the MacGuffin Ray-Bans. But mainly, Peter hands over Edith because he wants to. He's seeking justification for avoiding responsibility. In our own lives, regarding real-world politics, some people tend to believe just hardcore on their side without doing much research. And obviously, I'm not talking about you. You're intelligent and diligent and above average, or else you wouldn't be watching Screen Crush. But a lot of the country only watches one-sided news, and Facebook's algorithm has essentially created two kinds of news on social media, red and blue. Like Peter handing over Edith, it's easier to hand responsibility off to the media or politicians, or we just believe something because it seems like it could be true. For instance, everything I said at the beginning of this video about Reverend Cartwright was a lie. Some of you probably didn't believe it, but I bet a lot of you did. I found some photos on the internet and some old videos. We had our interns Photoshop some newspaper clippings, and maybe you believe me. Maybe you believe me because I spoke in a slow, kind of nerd writer NPR voice, or you were fooled by the Ken Burns style of the presentation. But if you believe me, it's most likely because you trusted me, or you wanted to believe. The real lesson that Peter Parker and all of us should take away from Far From Home is simple. Just because you believe something doesn't make it true. I don't know, what did you guys think about Far From Home's message? Let me know in the comments below. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.